Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50 with Dallas and Michael. What do you think about buying BHP shares? I don't. Dallas?
You're a bit confused by this title, aren't you, Michael? I mean, this is probably one of those ones that...
Question asked of yourself and then answered, or question asked by someone else and then answered by you?
So I'll give the background here, obviously. This is one of those podcasts that I'm sure that our resident sound engineer is going to listen to this and listen to the title and go, "You're a fool. No one knows what you're talking about. I'm going to call this something else." But this was the thought that came to me. So I actually had the
movie Train Spotting is not about sitting and spotting trains. That's the key to it. You have a catchy title.
Yeah. That's true.
They could have called Train Spotting any number of other things like Scottish drunks or it's brilliant. Yeah. Train Spotting.
Yeah. No, I agree. So this could be simple. No, this podcast is actually about the idea of buying BHP shares and what I think about it. So this is a question that I was asked the other day via a text message, and this is what brought it to mind. But you and I have had a variation of this question, I would say conservatively, 1,000 times each over the course of our careers. So someone I know messaged me and said, hey, basically, what do you think? Just wondering, what do you think about buying BHP shares? And I didn't actually send them this in response, but my first thought, and I actually typed the message, and just before I hit it, my response was, I don't.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that was I genuinely don't think at all about whether or not to buy BHP shares or whether now is a good time to buy BHP shares or any variation of what this person meant. And the reason I didn't hit send was that it's a real smart ass way to answer a question that is, a valid thing. But the point that and so then when I actually spoke to this person on the phone next, I said, look, to give a bit more context, that decision of whether to buy BHP shares or not at this moment in time is downstream of about 55 other decisions or other pertinent bits of information that are more important to you and more relevant to a decision than whether or not to buy BHP shares right now. So it's akin to the question of if someone was to say to me, hey, how long's a piece of string? I don't even know what you're talking about. So what we're talking about here is that if someone asks me, what do I think about buying BHP shares? There's two things that are implied, I think, in that question. Number one is that if I pick the right company and I invest in them, that will make all of my financial problems go away. And so I think that's sort of the implied thing. And again, as we say often in this podcast, this isn't a dig at this person. This is what is sort of portrayed in the financial media, is that you just need to pick the next hot stock and it'll go to the moon and that'll make all your problems go away. And if only you'd invested in Amazon 20 years ago or GameStop 2 years ago or whatever the latest trend, or Afterpay a few years ago, whatever it is. But it's essentially it's the tail wagging the dog. That's number one. That's not how it works. So there is no way to know in advance which of these individual companies will outperform and which ones. And you're basically trying to come up with a question, an answer to a question that isn't the real question. The real question is, what is the action or what is the step that I could take now to get me to where I need to be financially? And so the implied thing, I think, in things that you read about with this is that if only you pick the right company, all of your problems will go away. If only I got BHP shares or Rio Tinto shares or NAB shares or Apple shares or whatever, that selection of the company is the key thing here. Number one, no one can consistently do that over time. And number two, even if you got those companies right for whatever reason, and you were lucky enough to do so, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be able to achieve your financial goals. And so that's sort of part one, is that the implied position is if I pick the right companies, I'll be fine. Part two of it, which is implied, is that there is a right time to get in and out of companies. And again, it's implied that we know we can predict that, and we can know when to get in and when to get out. So I think why I find this question so interesting, and we get it all the time, is that it implies two things in here that we've talked in this podcast that we know cannot be done, which is selection and timing. We know that we cannot pick which companies will outperform over time, or which companies will do better than average, or which companies aren't going to go bankrupt. And it also implies the timing, which is that your job in your financial planning is to try and get in and out of companies at different times. And so I think the point here, and like I say, it's a bit of a smart ass answer, is that if you find yourself thinking about this and thinking this is the operative question, you've got the premise wrong entirely. You're going down the wrong road. So does that at all make sense? That rant.
Look, absolutely. So I agree wholeheartedly with what you say is implied in that question.
Yeah.
So it's implied in the question. Should I buy XYZ shares right now?
Yeah.
It is implied that the question is, if I do that, will I outperform all other shares, or all other companies' returns, or all other asset classes? Or is this, and of course, to be able to pick that, no one can actually pick that. So it's something that can't be done.
Yeah.
But the other issue I think that you raised is that even if that could be done, that wouldn't even go anywhere close to guaranteeing that you achieve your objectives and goals.
Yeah.
So, we say, we start with the premise that whilst outperforming the market would be nice, it can't be consistently done, and it can't be consistently timed, and it can't be consistently relied on. Our objective for our clients is that they have outperformance of outcomes.
Yes.
Which is very different.
Yep. So
outperformance of outcomes
that they want to achieve in their life, and they are able to achieve those things.
Yes.
And it's funny because when we touch on this all the time, it's very often in first meetings, or when people are first talking to us about this, it's like a jump straight to that. Whereas when we're talking about, okay, what do you need? How much money do you need? You know what I mean? What sort of life do you want to live, and what does that cost you in terms of the dollars you need to spend in order to live the lifestyle you want? And that to me is part one, because the money is really, as we've touched on, money is just energy, and we're just trying to transfer that, and we're trying to swap money for things that we want. Now, so part one is to work out, okay, how much of this money do I need, and when do I need it, and what will change in my life, and when might the amount of money that I need come in and out. Then part two is to go, okay, well, how much money do I need how much energy do I need to store up in order to provide that money when I need it, and how do I structure it, and what does it need to be? Then you get into the piece of the puzzle, which is, okay, well, if this is where I need to be in the future, and here's where I am now, what do I need to do? What plan of attack do I need to follow in order to build up the assets that I need at that point in time? And then after that is, right, well, what asset classes should I be invested in? What historically is going to give me the highest likelihood of achieving that outcome and getting to that dollar figure that I need? And then you've sort of finally got to, okay, well, within those asset classes, which historically have provided the returns that I'll need, okay, specifically, how should I invest this money, and what should I, what types of companies should I buy? And that's, but it comes at the end of about 7 or 8 different things that come first. And then separate to that is you'll notice in that chain of events there where we're looking at, right, how much money do I need in the future? How much do I need as a lump sum in order to provide that income? How much do I need to be saving? What does it need to be invested into? Nowhere within that chain of events is there a thing of, in order to get there, I need to be invested now but not now, or I need to be investing more money now but less money then. It's a logical chain of events, which is just that I need to be accumulating these assets over time. To some degree, the price that I pay right now is sort of irrelevant to that long-term thing. And so that's I think the very interesting thing there is that both of the things implied in that question are seen as relevant as it relates to financial media. And if you read the news and you see a headline where it goes, okay, BHP shares were down by 5% today, you'd be forgiven for thinking, well, that must be important. That's what's being reported on. BHP shares are down 5%. Okay, well, what does that mean for me? Should I buy BHP shares right now? It's completely irrelevant to those long-term outcomes, and it's completely irrelevant to what's actually important to me. The other point that I guess I'll touch on again there that just I got thinking about is that it sort of assumes, in a strange way, unlimited money in the present, like that there's no opportunity cost for that money. So when people are thinking like this, when people are asking that question, it's never the other thing that's never really looked at, which is odd, is that should I buy BHP shares right now, or should I do one of the other 350 things that I could do with that money? And that was the point that I got to when I actually had this conversation with this person is, well, yeah, you could buy BHP shares right now, and whether that helps you achieve your goals or not is sort of up in the air. But there are also many, many, many other things that you could be doing with that money, and some of them may be better or may be worse, but we won't know what the best and highest use of that money is unless we've sat down and thought, where is it that we're looking to get to? What are the things that we're looking to try and achieve? And how do I use this money right now in order to get me where I need to be? So yeah, I think that's probably the other part of it, is that it assumes that selection of the right companies and timing of those companies can be done, which we say can't be done. Yep. It assumes that it's relevant or important or matters to people, which we say doesn't matter. It matters that you're on track to achieve the outcomes you want. And it sort of assumes that there's no opportunity cost, and that I can buy my BHP shares, and I can also pay off my mortgage, and I can also go on that trip that I want to go off, and I can also put my money into super and do all those sorts of things. So it's a very interesting one to me, where a question, a bit of a throwaway question, really leads us to why human nature, or why if you're just following the news and you're not acting based on a long-term plan, you really have no chance of achieving those outcomes that you need in your life.
No, absolutely not. So I can invest a sum of money and get 30% rates of return every single year.
Yeah.
That's not going to change my life if that's only $1,000 or $2,000.
Yes.
Is that enough for me? And what is enough for me? And all of those types of things. They're the questions that really need to come first. Well and truly first.
Yep.
Before the answer. I mean, it's goals, plan, then portfolio.
Yes. That's a good way to break that down. So goals first. What is it that I'm looking to try and achieve? When am I looking to try and achieve it? What will that cost me? What do I specifically need? What's the date-specific, dollar-specific targets that I'm shooting towards? Then the plan. What do I need to do? In order to make those things happen? How much will I need to save? How much will I need to contribute? What are some ways I can pick up some tax savings? All those sorts of things that are covered in the plan. And then thirdly, there's the portfolio. There's of the money that I have now, of the energy, of the opportunities that I have, which are the dollars in my bank account. What is the highest and best use of them? What should that money be invested into right now in order to stick to the plan and achieve those goals?
Thanks for listening. If you can take a quick moment of your time to review us on your podcast player of choice. Is it a player? What is it?
I think I'd say app probably.
Podcast app of choice. So if you listen on iTunes, or if you listen on Podbean, or if you listen on what are you listening to?
I'm on Overcast.
Overcast,
which I highly recommend if you're a podcast listener. It's got all sorts of things that Michael hates this because I listen to a lot of podcasts on 2 times speed, and he hates the idea that you're making people talk twice as fast as what they should be. Now here's me being an older man not knowing all of this, Dallas. Asking the wise, bordering on millennial 32-year-old here. So can you leave a review? And we don't even need you to write words in the review. The main important thing is if you can fill up that 5th star. If in doubt, 5 stars will do. But you can do it all.
You can do it on any different app that you're listening to the podcast. So I'll shut up right now and let you do that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 financial advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.